Good evening and thank you so much for joining us. You're watching the 9 at Night. I'm Stephania Jimenez. So we know the cold front is here and yes, you are already feeling it. Let's go to the person who's been preparing us all week. Here's meteorologist Adam Caskey.
Feeling frigid outside tonight. Air temperatures dropping down into the upper teens. Wind chill down into the single digits, and that's all the way through Friday morning. The wind won't really subside until about the noon hour. By 1 o'clock tomorrow, we're at 32 degrees. 4 o'clock, we're at 34. So briefly and barely getting above freezing, but a lot of sunshine, which does go a long way in these situations. Then we dip back down below freezing, and Christmas Eve, we're 18 degrees in the morning. By the afternoon, sunny and 41. Not much of a breeze all Christmas weekend long. You're not going to really notice it. But Christmas Day, 22 in the morning. Should that verify, that would be the second coldest Christmas morning on record in San Antonio. Then upper 40s in the afternoon. Notice only sunshine. No travel problems on the roadways. No icing. None of that. Just sunshine, no precipitation. And hey, middle of next week, we're back up near 70.
You know, Adam's also been telling us that we shouldn't get any snow or ice, but we are getting high winds, and that's the issue. You know, this has happened before. The winds damaged power lines, so if the lights do go out at some point this week, CPS Energy says the winds are likely why. But if you're planning to hit the road for the holidays, here's some good news. Gas prices keep dropping. Right now, the statewide average is $2.62 per gallon for regular unleaded fuel. Drivers in El Paso paying the most right now in the state at $2.90 a gallon. The lowest prices, McAllen, and also right here in San Antonio, we're paying about $2.46 on average. And by the way, the national average is about $3.10, so we're well below that. You know, the sad reality is with this kind of bone-chilling cold, the San Antonio Fire Department predicts there are going to be more house fires over the next few days. Its spokesman says that with 15 fire fatalities in the last year, it doesn't want to see another one, especially over the holidays. As Jesse Degollado tells us, way too many fires are preventable.
No one was there when a fire gutted a home near Bulverde Road late Wednesday night. The apparent cause? The San Antonio Fire Department spokesman says it was a heating lamp being used to warm the family's chickens. He says it's the kind of accident that happens when cold weather sets in.
We like to say predictable is preventable.
Spokesman Joe Arrington says the fire could be an example of why a heat source should never be left next to anything combustible, space heaters being among the most common.
Make sure those are at least 3 feet away from everything combustible that could catch on fire. If you leave the room, turn it off.
Arrington says it's also important to remember for space heaters, use wall plugs, not power surge protectors or extension cords. He says don't overload those and make sure they aren't covered up because they can overheat and short out. And he says carbon monoxide poisoning can be caused by ovens used for warmth and any exhaust inside from outdoor generators. Arrington says, remember, the last thing you want is one of these to show up at your house over the holidays.
Stay warm, but do it safely so that we don't want to meet you tonight is what we're saying, basically.
Jesse Degollado, KSAT 12 News.
The San Antonio Fire Department has some advice on the precautions that you can take, and they're listed on its website, firesafesa.com, which is right there. We also have the link on our website, ksat.com, but hopefully you won't need it. So as many of us get ready to spend time with family, you might be thinking about staying healthy. Maybe you've had it at your house. We're talking fever, coughing, stuffy noses. Doctors' offices are packed with sick children suffering from respiratory illnesses. 12 on your side's Marilyn Moritz has a guide for parents to keep your kids healthy.
This winter, parents are battling a virus triple threat: the flu, COVID-19, and RSV.
Healthcare facilities are already being overwhelmed with sick kids, especially with RSV, which can cause cold-like symptoms, but also serious respiratory problems, particularly in babies.
So here's what you can do to help keep your kids from getting sick, relieve symptoms if they do, and recognize when you do have an emergency.
While there's no magic way to keep your kids from ever getting sick, there are some things you can do to better your odds, like keeping your kids' vaccinations up to date.
That includes the flu vaccine, COVID-19 vaccine, and booster boosters when eligible. Hand washing is great prevention. Show your kids how, scrubbing for 20 seconds when they get home, after using the bathroom, and before eating. And if they'll be in a crowded indoor space, those face masks are still effective. If your child does get sick, comfort is key.
Kids generally just need time to get better. So let your child rest, watch some movies, and very importantly, keep them hydrated.
As for medication, check with your doctor first. It's usually okay to use children's ibuprofen or acetaminophen, but experts say skip the cough medicine because it doesn't work well for them and can even be dangerous. If your child has a fever of 105 degrees, is showing signs of dehydration, or is having trouble breathing, that's an emergency needing the ER. Any fever in newborns under 2 months is also an emergency. Marilyn Moritz, KSAT 12 News.
Switching gears now, the Bexar County Sheriff's Office and Sheriff Javier Salazar now at the center of a federal lawsuit filed by a fired BCSO lieutenant. The Sheriff's Office fired Roxanne Matai last summer, more than a year after she posted multiple photographs on Facebook showing her outside the U.S. Capitol on January 6th as a protest erupted into a deadly riot. 6 months later, an arbitrator decided to uphold her termination, and now she's claiming that her constitutional and civil rights were violated. The lawsuit also states that while Matai was at the pro-President Trump rally, she did not go inside of the U.S. Capitol building. Now we need you to look at something really closely because Crime Stoppers needs your help. Police are looking for a driver who hit a 16-year-old girl last month and then just left her on the side of the road. They've shared these photos because they're hoping to get answers. This happened November 14th on Martin Luther King Drive in South Walters. According to police, the driver of the black SUV hit the girl while she was crossing the street. The driver stopped and tried to help, but didn't stay. So now that person faces a charge of failure to stop and render aid. And by the way, that girl who was hurt was taken to the hospital. If you know anything about this, call Crime Stoppers. That number is 210-224-STOP. Yeah, you really got to feel for the people who lived at that home. A fire gutted a home on the northeast side. That's off Briarcrest near Bulverde Road. San Antonio firefighters think that a heating lamp was being used to warm chickens, and that's what started the fire. They say the homeowner wasn't there at the time. A dog made it out safely, but 4 chickens died, and also a cat is still missing. Now, recall alert tonight. The Consumer Product Safety Commission is recalling more than 200,000 blankets, weighted blankets for kids. This brand is Pillow Fort. You can buy it at Target. The zipper can become undone and a young child can enter the blanket getting trapped inside. As a matter of fact, 2 people have already died. So if you have that item, you can just go back to Target and return it for a refund. Now we have a question for you. How early is too early to stand outside for tamales? Because many of you say no such thing as too early. It was still dark outside when all those people started lining up at Tellez Tamales on General McMullen at about 2 this morning. And even though they had to wake up before the crack of dawn, many of them say that it's worth it and actually a family tradition.
My dad's the one that started it. He passed away in 2013. So it's been, I don't know. These are the only tamales we've known for a long time.
Tellez is year-round for us in our home.
Yeah.
So I just like, okay, I'll go. My husband's like, I'm really worried if we live too far. And I go, I'll be fine, go to sleep.
Now, popular as they may be, Tellez Tamales runs its operation on a first-come, first-served basis, and that's exactly why so many people start lining up the night before. Now, speaking of special traditions, the 30th annual HEB Feast of Sharing was back in full swing today. After 2 years of no in-person events because of the pandemic, volunteers and guests were happy to be back at the Henry B. Gonzalez Convention Center. They served about 10,000 barbecue meals. People also got to enjoy family activities and also had an opportunity to get flu shots. By the way, the HEB Feast of Sharing began in 1989. It serves more than 340,000 meals every year in 34 cities throughout Texas and Mexico. We're out of time. The 9 at Night returns tomorrow. Have a beautiful night and please stay warm.